Just following up on the theme and rime, there is what's called fronting theme, which means that you make the theme stand out a bit more and make it more marked, what's called marked theme. And of course, there are two types of marked themes. We'll talk about them in a minute. But what it means, Greenbaum and Quirk in 1990, he says fronting, which is very important, by the way. This is information about information flow, is actually not many teachers go through and explain about this, because they always look at the sentence and they analyze it in terms of grammar and structure and everything, and they don't really look at the information flow, which is how the information is flowing in the sentence, and which one is the theme, which one is the rime. So sometimes you might actually, this is important for in translation to understand the sentence, and also for interpreting as well. Fronting involves the achievement, according to these two scholars, of marked theme by moving into initial position an item which is otherwise unusual to be there. Here is an example. The book received a great deal of publicity in China. Before we move on, I just want to say that fronting can be also relating to time and place. Now, I'm not talking about the theme here, fronting it, but any other parts of the segments of the sentence. Fronting the time or fronting the place. For example, in China, you can say blah, blah, blah. Or fronting the object or the complement. You say, a great deal of publicity in China did the book receive, for example. And that's fronting not of the theme I'm talking about. And there's also fronting of the predicate, which is received a great deal of publicity in China. The whole thing is a predicate which you can front as well. But my focus is on the theme itself. Now, how do you front the theme? There are two structures. You can always say, it was the book that received a great deal of publicity in China. If you say it was the book, then you are using what's called cleft structure. It was blah blah that and blah blah. It was the book that received. So the IT structure is predicating the theme. The theme we know from that sentence, the one we have just looked at, which is the book received a great deal of publicity in China. Of course, the theme is obviously the book. But here, you've added the it structure. It was the book that received. So you highlight more the theme. You make the theme more marked, because we know that the theme is the book. Okay, so you're predicating the book. You're making the book as a predicate, and so you say the IT structure is predicating the theme as the theme is the book, and not it was. So it was is not the theme. We know the theme comes at the beginning of the sentence to start the sentence, but then it was is not the theme, it's the book. But it's just a structure here to highlight the actual theme. And this form is called predicated theme. This is predicated theme using the it structure, which is called cleft structure. Sometimes it is called in grammar and in syntax. And this is important in translation and interpreting as well. So it's not really only related to interpreting, it's actually understanding the sentence in the form of, in terms of the information flowing in the actual clause or sentence. The second structure of fronting the theme is WH structure. And that is when you say what the book received in China was a great deal of publicity. So when you say when you use the WH structure, the pseudo-cleft structure, you are identifying, of course, the theme by placing an element in theme position, which is you are using the what structure, and thus turning it into a nominalization. What does that mean? If you look at the sentence here, the book received a great deal of publicity in China. This is a verbal sentence. Okay, subject, the book, received, a verb, and the rest is the object or the complement of the sentence. So that's a verbal one, verbal sentence. And then here you've changed it in the WH structure into a nominalization structure, nominalization. So you are actually talking about nominalization here, changing it into that kind of form. So it becomes a nominal sentence, because the nominal sentence requires the word was, and there it is. What the sentence becomes, what the book received in China was a great publicity. So you see, you have changed it, and still the theme has become an identifying theme, i.e., what the book received in China was, what the book received in China was a great deal of publicity. Okay, so that is what the WH structure is. So these two structures, which make the theme, they make the theme being marked, being focused upon more importantly than it was when it was in the form of a verbal sentence. In a verbal sentence, it's not a marked theme. But when you move it from its initial position and put, instead of the word the book, it was the book that received a great deal of publicity in China. It was the book that received a great publicity in China. إنه الكتاب الذي تلقى الكثير من الإعلان في الصين. إنه الكتاب. So إنه الكتاب الذي تلقى كذا. So that is one form. And then the other form, which is what the book received in China was a great deal of publicity. ما تلقاه الكتاب في الصين هو الكثير من الإعلان أو من الدعاية أو من الإعلان. So you see, you have changed, you've made the theme more prominent when you say, what the book received in China, so this is the WH structure, was a great deal of publicity. And of course, that's the nominalization of the sentence. I'm just going to move on to something really important about information flow in a clause or in a sentence as a message. I've explained to you earlier in another video about the thematic structure. And now I'm going to move on, according to Halliday, about the information structure. How do you divide the sentence, not according to theme and rhyme, as we have seen earlier with Aristotle, thought, and so on in that example. Here, we're going to actually divide the sentence into two structures, into two segments, according to the information flow in the sentence. So here we have been talking about also, as I said earlier, that we are talking about all aspects of thematic structure. Now let's turn into information structure in a sentence. So you divide the sentence, you understand the sentence according to the information that comes in the sentence. And here you say the sequence of the information. Given information and a new information. This is a second way of segmenting the sentence. This is how the information flow is sequenced. Here is an example of given information and the new information. The first example, what's happening tomorrow? Okay, and the answer is, we are climbing the highest mountain on earth. So the answer, all of it is new information. Because if you see the question, what is happening tomorrow, there is no we even. And we know it is happening, i.e. it's continuous tomorrow, in the future, but we don't know what's happening. So all the information you can actually see in the answer that all of the information is new information. If the answer was what's happening in tomorrow is that we are, so what's happening tomorrow is we are climbing. So what's happening tomorrow becomes old information. And the new information, we are climbing the highest mountain on earth. And this usually happens when you get somebody who's asking you a question. You don't actually answer that question by repeating the old information. You don't say, in fact, tomorrow, so tomorrow is old information. In fact, what's happening tomorrow is that all of this is old information. And we are climbing the highest mountain on earth, which is the new information. So in interpreting, usually you watch out for the new information only. You only base your, you're always looking for new information. You don't want to repeat the old information. So in other words, even if the interpreter or if the speaker says what's happening tomorrow is that we are flying or we are climbing the highest mountain on earth, we don't need to say what's happening tomorrow because it's old information. So we can reduce the theme, we can reduce that old information, and we can just bring in only the new information for the listeners, because that's what they are interested in. They know that the question is what's happening tomorrow, so it's known information. So you see, given information is already known. So we don't need to repeat this information. We need to only produce the new information. And that's what's important for the listeners to hear the new things. The same here, let's go to the next example, number 2. What are we doing tomorrow? And the answer is, we are climbing the highest mountain on earth. You see, in this case here, we are climbing, we are is given information, is already known information, is already old information. So you don't need to say we are. نتسلق يعني ما في ضرورة نقول نحن نتسلق. So you see, you are focusing on more the new information. And you are dividing what we are climbing the highest mountain on earth in the second example. You are dividing it into the information structure in that clause, in that sentence, into given information, which is we are, that's given information, old information, known information, and climbing the highest mountain on earth is the new information. So that's where everybody will be listening more to the new information. They don't want to know that we are, because we already put that in the question. What are we doing tomorrow? So we are already mentioned in the question. So it's given information in the answer. We don't focus too much on the given information, and we reduce that as much as possible, and we bring in more of the new information. A third example. Here, what are we climbing tomorrow? What are we climbing tomorrow? That's the question. And the answer is, we are climbing the highest mountain on earth. In the third example, you see that the given information we are climbing, we know that because it's in the question already. What are we climbing tomorrow? So we know that we are climbing and we know it's tomorrow. So we don't need to say we are climbing again. We can still go for the highest mountain on earth, which is an answer to the question. So the word or the phrase or the actual words we are climbing is given information. And the new information is the highest mountain on earth. So that's where you focus more in interpreting. You focus more on the new information. Of course, you keep the old information or the given information in your mind but it's more important to focus on the new information when you are actually outputting the new information. So you can look at it from a point of view of theme and rime, and reducing the theme and focusing more on the rime, or you can look at it from this point here of information structure, where you are focusing more on the given information and new information. Thank you.